Hi everyone, welcome to Armenian Music Project. I have someone from Canada, and it is Petros Shoujounian. Welcome to the Armenian Project.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being with you.
You know, when I was reading about you, I realized that you moved from Gumri, or at the time Leninakan, Armenia, to Montreal during the Soviet time. How did that work out?
Well, it was a very difficult operation. We applied to come to Canada in 1972. We got the authorization to leave the country. It was 1976. It took a good 4 years because at that time the doors were really closed and you must have a relative outside the country to apply for you. So my aunt was here, so she applied for whole family. And then 1976, really Soviet area, we left.
Wow.
And then, yeah, we established in Montreal, Canada, the year of Olympics.
Wow.
Olympic, yeah, exactly, the year of Olympic, 1976.
So are you a sports fan then?
Well, at the time, yes, I was a hockey fan a lot. I loved hockey, especially when Canadian came to play in Moscow, 1972. It was a big event that time, and yes, I loved hockey when I was young, and we had chance to play in our backyard, but in the winter. But it is something that I loved a lot when I was young.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why move to Canada though? I mean,
well, it was just question of relatives. My relatives were here because my parents went to Armenia after Second World War in 1946, and half of my father's side they didn't left. They stayed in Lebanon, and then they moved to Canada 69, and they applied for our family 72. So that's why we came Canada. It was just by chance. It was not by choice. It was just a question of chance. Our family was here. So we moved here. At that time, the community here was not too big, but very active. So as soon as I arrived, first of all, I applied to continue my education here. So I had chance to get into Montreal Conservatory, which is a government establishment. It's funded by government. It's a school, music school that related to Paris Conservatory. They do exactly the same program. So I applied to get into composition. And I had a teacher whose name was Gilles Tremblay, the founder of Quebec actual music, I see in modern music. He's one of the, let's say, people who start contemporary music in Quebec. He studied at his time with Olivier Messiaen. He was student of Olivier Messiaen. So that's the line we continue. So I was in conservatory a good 6 years. I got my master's degree in composition. So after that, I start to compose and be active. I was lucky because CBC, Radio Canada, at the time was funding a lot of recordings, doing a lot of promotion for contemporary music. We had a 2-3 program weekly basis, structured only on contemporary music. So I have a lot of recording done by Radio Canada, CBC. But after the time change and then other waves of operational procedures came out. So, but still, I'm very active. I'm composing. I'm very happy doing that. And I love to write music.
Well, since you spoke about writing music, different composers have different ways of doing it. I've had a couple of composers on my other project, which is a podcast, and a couple of them were talking about how it's better to have some kind of a commission where, write 10-minute piece for this specific instruments, and it kind of gets them to concentrate and do it that way. And other composers are like, well, I want it to be completely free. I do whatever I want. What's your approach? What do you enjoy?
Well, I was working on both sides of project. I was commissioned a few times. I mean, a good, very important commissions. I had a percussion concerto, wrote for Marie-Josée Simard, one of the great percussionists in Quebec. and 3 orchestras were performed. I did a cello concerto. Again, another 3 orchestras were performed in Canada-wise. I got another commission that it was 325th anniversary of Montreal. I got another big commission of that project too. So I did both. I did special commissions, and then 3 of project that I was creating with friends, with let's say orchestras or chamber ensembles that I know. We build up the project, and then we try to finance the project. And in financing, we were just including even the commission for the composer. I mean, professionally, it was a very important procedure that we went through. And beside all that, sure, I have some other small project that I composed to really, because I have the ideas, I don't want to let them in the air. I just want to put on the black and white. And as we know, everybody now, we are using music programs that helps us to compose, to make the music, to make the files, and keep in right time to promote when time comes.
Yeah.
So it's very wise, proper way I do proceed, you know.
Yeah. Well, with composers, it's always fascinating to know where the start was, and you didn't really quite say how it started, what instrument you played, and how the journey got started.
Well, when I started writing, my first experience, I was 11 years old, and the reason was that my aunt was visiting us from Beirut to Armenia. And my father told me, look, your aunt is coming. Why you don't write a special song for her? When she arrives, you will sing for her. I said, why not? Let's try to do something. And then we got some small poetry about aunt. And then I wrote my first song to my aunt. Yeah. So this was the beginning of my composition adventure. Yeah. But after that, when I was in college in Armenia, before coming to Montreal, I was in 2 faculty of performing art and composition. I was doing both. In Armenia, I was violinist at the time, okay. And I'm violinist. So, and then composition parallel. So I had an excellent teacher whose name was Azad Shishian. He's a very well-known composer in Armenia. He did a lot of choral music, especially. He was specialized in choral music. He was very straight, and then he really made the basis of what means to compose, what is the importance, where to start, how to develop, and classical way of thinking, you know, how to build up a piece. It was very, very, very interesting classes I had with him. But when I came to Canada, well, the world completely was different, because it was my first contact with Western side. It completely another mentality, open mentality, freedom of thinking, freedom of putting together, you know, so this is completely another school, completely another school. So by discovering Oliver Messiaen, Hector Varese, Xenakis, Boulez, you name it, it's completely another world, you know. And my teacher here, Tremblay, was very interesting man. He suggested me at that time, Petros, he said, you should bring your, let's say, Armenian music to our society, because you have your music, which is very interesting, very profound music. And it would be interesting if you work with your Armenian, let's say, musical heritage and introduce completely with new utilities. And then that's the way you can really bring something new in our Quebec music library, because that's your originality that we like to have. So I follow his advice, and I'm not regretting, because today when they play my music in any repertoire, as soon as my music starts, you see it's a different world, different thinking, different emotional presence, and I love it. Imagine when they were performing my percussion concerto in London, Ontario. Imagine in the public, I was the only Armenian. And then that music was based on Sayat Novasum. musical element. Ulysses Sayatnova music, you are the only Armenian in the public. It's a great feeling, Tikran. It's a great feeling, I think. And I look forward to develop this idea going forward and trying to promote, because we are outside of Armenia, we have two missions. Not only being a composer, we have another mission. We want to promote Armenian music as much as we can, so this is that's something, it's on our shoulders, and we have to carry out as far as we are here.
Yeah, and since you mentioned that Armenia and the diaspora, how's your relationship with Armenian musicians and connection to Armenia? I know you've been back. Are you collaborating there? Are you working there?
Yeah, well, the year that I arrived here, 76, I was 18, and 6 months later, the day I start the conservatory, parallelly I start to conduct a chorus here. I build up the Hamazgain chorus here, and later on I took even a church choir, Armenian Catholic church chorus. I was conducting 2 choruses for a good 15, 20 years.
Wow.
So I was very close to the community. I was really trying to introduce Armenian music as much as we can by doing very interesting choral repertoires. And every time we were on the stage, we were promoting completely newer program, because in Armenian music there is a lot of choral music, and we don't miss any material as a choral repertoire. Starting from Komitas and going to 20th century, we have a lot of good Armenian composers who wrote a lot of beautiful music for the choral repertoire. Beside that, after that, when I start working, focusing more on composition, because after 20 years you want to give somebody else to continue, and then it's the other side of my music career was composition. So I start to write a lot of music. Let's say one of the important project was 1700th anniversary of Christianity, 2001. We did a huge project in Toronto, and I wrote a piece for orchestra and chorus based on every 100 years announcement about crops. So we went to our manuscript, we took out a lot of old Armenian version of texts, and then I wrote the music on it. So it was a huge event in Toronto. It was Elmer Eider singers with the Knar and Alemshah orchestra in Toronto. It was a beautiful project. Later on, I focused on 100 years anniversary of Armenian genocide. I wrote a complete mess, the whole mess, for chorus, for 4 singers, and pipe organ. This was in Montreal, 2015.
What language was the mass?
In Armenian, Old Armenian again.
Wow, okay.
Old Armenian. And French Canadians, they sang nicely Old Armenian. It was very, very, let's say, challenging for them to sing and to do the right pronunciations. And it was a big success. I mean, the Cathedral Saint Jean-Baptiste takes about 2,000 people. It was full house. And then it was a very sensitive momentum. It took me a while to decide to write a mass. It's a big responsibility. It took me 5 years to finish.
Yeah, of course.
It's a long piece, 1 hour, 40-minute music. It was big adventure. So I'm very, very glad doing that, because it's important. It's important. And after that, we start to work with Armenia. I went to Armenia 2016. I did that my string quartet project with Molinari string quartet. We will be able to get the grants to take governmental grants from Canada to go to Armenia and to do 3 concerts over there. And then Molinari was there. It was my first, let's say, official visit as a composer after exactly 40 years of absence.
I was going to say, it was exactly 40, yeah.
Exactly 40 years later. Well, I was a few times in Armenia, but like a visitor to visit family and friends. But as a composer. It was my first visit after 40 years.
Wow.
After that, I have the contacts now. We try to build up project if we can. It's not easy because it's difficult to raise the project over there. But I'm passionate. I'm working with the right people, and they are positive. We will make some other interesting stuff. We like to do it. For sure, we want to talk about Komitas 150th anniversary last year. It was a huge event we did here in Montreal, again with Laval Symphony Orchestra. I changed the 7 dances of Komitas to concerto, piano concerto. So it was performed here really nicely. It was a beautiful project. And then I took the Komitas Mess, 3-voice mess, and changed it for orchestra suite.
Wow.
Okay. Completely new approach that you listen, not the choral music, you listen orchestral stuff.
Yeah.
So I developed a lot of the elements in the mass, and then again it was performed in the same program. We we took the half of the program of that concert, and it was a successful concert. That we like to do in Armenia. If the things get forward, we'll see how we're gonna do that. But with this coronavirus, all the projects are on standby now, so we'll see how things will develop. But I look forward to do project with Armenia. It's very important. Yeah. It's very important.
I know you're very passionate about your Armenian connection and roots and everything. So that'd be awesome to see your stuff in Armenia. It's really tough because with this coronavirus and everything happening around the world, things are being pushed, postponed, and then things are being canceled. So you just never know. Even people who had their pieces, scheduled to perform, now
that's right.
It's a question mark, even if.
Exactly. You see, we did another nice project in Paris, again for Komitas 150. I took two very good singers, and I did orchestration of the song that Komitas wrote for 10 musicians. And then parallelly, I orchestrate the same format of works from Debussy, Ravel, because Komitas was a friend of them, and then he was really impressed a lot, influenced a lot from Debussy and Ravel. So that concert proved how Komitas was closer to Ravel and Debussy, and we did that in Paris, especially 28th of September, 2 years after his anniversary. It was another good project that we did it, and we love to do that in Armenia too. So we'll see what's happened, because for me, Komitas music, it's important to promote as much as we can. So it's important because it's a valuable composer. He did a lot of, we know that he transcribed a lot of music, and all that stays in libraries, in the books. So we have a lot of project in front of us to promote that music. Say this is very important to focus on it. Maybe alone it's difficult, but if, let's say, one day, if it's possible, Armenian government take the steps to, as a government, as a cultural ministry, to work more deeply with that, just not only anniversary to anniversary, because for Armenians it's important to establish themselves as a nation, and the culture is part of it, and music, it's always there. So there's a lot to be done.
And culture is a big part of it, and it's through culture that all these other countries and other cultures see you. So it's very important. And Komitas is truly a very unusual and unique and special person for Armenians, both as just an individual, as an Armenian, and what he did, everything he did, but also as an ethnomusicologist, as a musician, composer. Sure. So he's a very unique individual, and he should, even with Armenian youth, I think he should be promoted more. It is,
the thing is that his repertoire is not big. Komitas has a good choral repertoire, which we have to really push that ahead. The other part, he has few music for piano and, let's say, voice and piano. The repertoire it's a little, but whatever he collected as a music heritage, we're talking around 3,000.
Mhm.
It's around 3,000 musical elements, like Bartok, you know? So for us as composers, we have a mission. If each composer works with, let's say, between 5 to 12 or 20 melodic heritage that Komitas left, and to create, we can do that chamber music, we can do small orchestra project with that. I mean, everything is possible. The elements are there, the musical phrases are there. It's us to really take that project in hand and try to promote. And this is very, very important, because what's happened now, when all the Soviet Union collapsed, the people were so excited to discover West, discover Western culture. And a lot of young composers, they went to Europe, studying Europe. And then when they went back with European culture, and very little of them really thinks that, okay, I have that utility as a musician. I have to apply, but your roots you cannot put aside. You have to really take that in consideration. This is important. That's the way the history will make us as a nation, because already from the 11th century to 17th century until Sayat Nova, we really had only religious music left for us. So there is a big gap that we have to fill it up. We can really do a lot in chamber music, a lot in, let's say, small orchestra stuff, big orchestra stuff. We need to work a lot as a composer. I mean, Komitas, just materials. Can you imagine around 3,000 materials? And every composer can use the same material. Yeah. It will come something else. Yeah. Why not? You know, that's the richest part that we have to really focus. And I really advise all my colleagues who is in composition, please go take look that beautiful music left for us. You see, my quartets, it's based on 15th century, from 5th to 15th century religious music. When that music was performed first time, I mean, you see that the roots are very strong. It's very meditative, and it sounds actual. It sounds contemporary at the same time. So, I mean, doing this kind of project, we promote more and more what we have as a heritage, because as a nation, the value of the nation is cultural heritage. If you don't have a cultural heritage, I'm sorry, you cannot be, as important as you think. Yeah. Because cultural heritage, that's the pulse, yeah. That's the pumping pulse of the people.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. Well, you've collaborated with, you mentioned Nurhan Arman in Canada, but you've also collaborated with a number of other artists. So I don't want to say their names myself. You're welcome to say some of the important Canadian Armenians that have done so well, and you've worked with.
Yes, I work a lot with conductor Rafi Armenian. Mm-hmm. Rafi Armenian is a very good friend of mine. My percussion concerto, I had another music for bassoon concerto that he conducted with CBC Orchestra. And then we did Isabel Bayraktarian project, again for 1700 of Armenia's Christianity in Toronto. Rafi conducted that one. I orchestrated, and Rafi with Isabel, we did. This is another beautiful project we realized. And Rafi really did a great job. I mean, for me, Rafi is my, let's say, my best consultant. Anything I finish, I forward him and have his idea on it. So, because at the time, even I worked with him when his wife was conducting Montreal Metropolitan Orchestra. I was the personal manager of the orchestra. So we had a good 5 years daily basis contact, working and collaborating together. It was an honor for me working with Rafi. He's a very, very important artistic figure in Canadian musical history. I had the chance to work with Hasmik Babian 2 years ago. I wrote beautiful music they performed in Armenia. I did that for her as Armenian singer. She's one of the important figure in opera division of Armenian music today. I know very well Avo Kuyumjan, pianist. We have some project with him too. Knar and Alemshah wants to perform my concerto that we did in Montreal last year. Well, they are always, we have a good collaboration. We try to, do our best. But the other side, I work with non-Armenians too by having chance to introduce Armenian music to non-Armenians who always welcome. They love performing Armenian. For example, Alain Trudel, the Laval symphony conductor, was so impressed with Armenian music, and he really enjoyed the concert. And Philippe Bourg, choral conductor with St. Lawrence Chorus that we did the concert last 2015. For him, learning just Armenian was an exciting momentum. He said, Petro, it's so interesting, the pronunciation, it's so rich. Mm-hmm. So he was really enjoying doing the project. So it's always open. The door is open. I mean, from both sides, working with non-Armenians and with Armenians. That's the richest part, to have chance to work with them.
Well, Petros, everyone knows you as a composer, and everything that you've done musically. Some things that people don't know about you, maybe hobbies or things that you do that are unusual or people don't know that you're willing to share.
The thing is that I got married late. I was 33, 34 when I got married. So I met my wife exactly the same year the Armenian became independent. And we got married the day of independence.
Wow.
Imagine. So after a while, we got our twin boys 8 years after. So I'm a father of twin boys, and it is something really completely another lifestyle when you have on your shoulders carrying out the twins, and creating and helping. I love cooking because not by force, but by being a father, and my wife couldn't do everything alone, so I had to help her. So it became that we divide the day by two. I was looking the kids from morning to, let's say, 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock, I was coming back from work, and I was starting doing my teaching lessons. So it helps me to discover something else than music. So being with the children, it's completely another way of seeing the life, because to give, to take, to listen, to advise. I mean, it's something that as a human being you go through, and your life becomes more richer. So I love cooking, for example. I don't like handworks, for example, because doing something handy I don't like. But making cooking to make a supper for everybody, it's a joyful moment for my day. And it's a meditative. Yeah. Usually I do that between 1 and 3, and the moment that I'm cooking, so I'm thinking a lot of ideas comes in and out, and then whoops, it's done. But it's something that everybody has something that he likes to do parallelly. Yeah. So.
And I've talked to so many composers over the past couple of years on my podcast, and I've realized I would say 90% of them also mention cooking. You mentioned other instrumentalists or conductors. They'll say, "Oh, I like this or that." They'll say different things. But with composers, I would say 90% cooking. And it is a composition, you know.
Exactly, yeah. You know, you create something new, and I
Yeah.
don't like to look the books, cooking books. I try to improvise something. It comes in my head,
Yeah.
and sometimes it becomes good result, sometimes less, you know. But you know, my boys, they used to eat anything. You know, they don't. They are not picky. You know, from when they were young, we used to teach them that they have to eat fruits, vegetables, you know, whatever you could eat, it's a gift from God. You should take it, not to refuse it. So it's fun. It's really fun. It's really
From what I
fun.
remember on our chats on and off over the past couple of years, we've chatted on Facebook and otherwise and emails, but we never really had this kind of a face to face, even though it's
No.
not really face to face. But you've talked about your boys, and they're older now, right?
They are 20 years old now, second year university. They are studying international relations, both of them. They love the human nature, the history, and they want to bring something new, something positive. And this, well, I really learn now from them. At the time I was advising my point of view, now I'm listening them because they are really related, very large scale information. And it's fun because when they resume a situation, and then you listen them, and then, you know, 6 months or 3 months later, whatever he was discussing, it becomes a reality. So it gives a good chance of, you know, listening and, you know, admiring what they learn, you know. So it's really fun. I never thought that they were going in field like this, but, you know, you have to do something that you love. And my father at the time, he really want me to do whatever I like to do, and then that's what I'm doing for them. For me, it's important, if they love this area as a professional, sure, they have to go forward. They have a lot of to go to study. Second year, it's let's say a quarter of the whatever they learn. They have a long way to go, but I really encourage them, and I back them to, you know, to realize their dreams.
Well, 20 years with twins, is it really true that they're really connected and they really like doing things together? I mean, is that
Yeah,
true?
they are very connected.
Huh.
My twins are not identical. They are not identical, but they are really connected. That's true. That's true. I mean, I I never saw them to fight more than 3 minutes. You know, not after 3 minutes they come together again. You know, they like to share a lot together, and this is important. This is important. But that's the nature of twins. I mean, sharing things together. It's from the day one they were sharing the space and the feelings. So it's really true. Twins, they love to share.
Yeah, that's amazing. Have they been to Armenia?
Yes, we were together 2013,
Mhm.
and we were there a good amount. And we went to Karabakh, we went to all historical places together. They fall in love. If I let them, they will take the plane to Armenia tomorrow. I mean, at that point, they love their country, they love their culture, they talk fluently Armenian. And we were lucky they went to Armenian school here in Montreal. We have a very good school until high school. So they love their language, they love their culture. This is important, you know. If they have chance to, they had chance to learn and to discover their own history, which we are lucky, and they appreciate a lot what they have. So I look forward that they become a good Canadian citizen and good Armenian citizen at the same time. Why not?
And I feel the same way. You know, my boy, he's only 8 months old now.
Oh my goodness.
But I feel exactly, I share exactly the same thoughts. I hope he becomes a great world citizen, American citizen, Armenian citizen. He's passionate.
Exactly.
And I hope that just the way you've done, he grows up to speak Armenian and is passionate, just like your kids. It's very important. You know, language is a big part of who we are, and it's important to speak it and understand it and communicate. And it's tough. There's so many great Armenians who don't speak the language, and they're, you know, passionate, but language somehow connects us, doesn't it?
Sure, it's important. Language is very important, especially now with technology. You have chance to learn Armenian very easily. Let's say 50 years ago, they didn't have that chance, but now we have the opportunity to learn, especially with the kids, especially whatever you find on the web. It's so rich about as an information. We have everything that we can use. And speaking Armenian is the main chance to create from young age to learn the language. My boys, they love to speak French, they love to speak English, but once they are in the house, we talk Armenian only. This is the key of learning. And even when they were in the school, they're supposed to speak French in the class. They're supposed to talk Armenian in the backyard of the school. But once they are home, they never use French or English. They were always talking Armenian, and this is the key of really putting a right base for the language. More you communicate, easy, because especially when they are young, we know it's proved scientifically the children can learn 8 languages until age of 4 parallelly. So let's use the chance. If we have the chance to talk to them, they absorb everything. And 8 months, it's a lovely age, so you have to enjoy as much as you can, because it flies. Tikran, it flies, the time flies. It's so interesting. But to create the connection between your child and you have to spend a lot of time. You have to spend time with him.
And that's, you know, if there is one positive in this pandemic, in this crazy situation, which there seems to be not too many positives, because so many people have lost their lives, and people are sick, and all of that happening around the world, people losing jobs and everything. But for me, it's been a bit tough, but also it's been very positive because I get to spend a lot of time with him. So I really enjoy it a lot. I don't want to take too much of your time, but you have a lot of books back there. I'm assuming you're an avid reader. What are some of the last books that you read, and what are you reading?
Well, what I read, usually I try to get informed as much as we can about the world situation. I love to see the ideas, the projections, what's coming next, what are the human being are receiving in the future, how we gonna get through this pandemic, especially. I'm sure after once it's done, the whole mentality will be changed. How do what kind of place art will take? Because can we go back to big concert hall, big festivals? When we gonna go do those things? You know, this is the things that I'm worried about. And as a creator, as a composer, and for us, the public was very important to have public concert, festivals. Imagine in Montreal, the festivals in Quebec area, a province, the festivals, every year they were pumping $3 billion of turnover. Can you imagine now all those things are stopped? I'm just talking Quebec. In States, it's 10 times more than that. How are we going to go through this? I'm really worried about and trying to get as much as I inform to see how we're going to put ourselves in this new situation. How are we going to continue? How the web will take the place, replace other things that we were doing physically. For example, I was teaching my students. I was seeing them every week. Now I have to see them on with camera, with Zoom. It's very unusual for me to do, but I have to get used to, and I'm trying to convince myself, though, those are the changes are coming. So I'm trying to get informed as much as I can, what to do, how to be prepared, and is it possible to absorb all that in one shot? It's very hard.
Yeah.
Very hard, especially, well, I'm in the early 60s, so I have maybe another, let's say, 10, 12 years to be active. But for the young ones, it's really tough. It's really tough. So that's what's, I'm trying to discover and think about. So what we can do, next steps, how we're gonna put ourselves in these changes, big changes.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough because, the great thing about going to a concert, a live performance, is, of course, experiencing it live with the flaws and the happy and great moments, and also sharing it with people who are next to you. And sometimes people who are, you don't even know, but you're kind of in that moment together, and you see other people's reactions. But not only that, so much is being controlled on the web as far as the camera. For example, this might seem like a simple thing, but you're just looking at the places that the camera wants you to look at. Or if you're in a hall live music, you could look at the conductor for 10 minutes.
Exactly, sure.
Look at the bass player if you want, or whatever you want to do. So it's just a different experience. And plus the way the sound is projected, no matter how good the recording is, the way the sound is in the hall, it's completely different.
So we have to we have to adapt ourselves. Those are the changes are coming. And the thing is that we don't know how long this will stay. This is the big question mark that nobody knows the answer. Nobody knows the answer. I hope the vaccine will come sooner possible, but we know that vaccine is something that it's medical. Until they don't do the let's say the trials, medical trials, they cannot be on the market, because they have to be proved, and it takes time. So we are really going through a big change, and we have to try to keep ourselves active. Now, how are we going to use the technology to stay active and to communicate, to keep working? How are we going to use our presence in the web? How are we going to promote music generally, not only ourselves, just music? How the life will be changed, all that. So there are big question marks. We are really very difficult and different and unusual ground now. So let's see how things will develop. I remember I lately, before the pandemic, I wrote you and I was asking you, okay, can we just think about to do that Paris program with you sometime in California? You see, it was just 3 months ago, 4 months ago, and then now everything is on the frozen situation. And we hope that our scientists will do everything, because it's a global. It's not only in one place. I think the whole world would put together whatever is the knowing, knowledge, and then they will come up with solutions. But we have to have patience. We have to come down, to not get stressed. Well, it's stressful because we were not ready for this. But let's try collectively go through this, and better days are ahead.
That's a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much for joining me.
It's a pleasure.
I hope to meet you in person one day.
One day, for sure. Say hello to your wife or your wonderful child, and we keep in touch, my friend.
Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day. Take care.
It's a pleasure.